here.
Awesome stuff. Hello, everybody. It is Corey Poirier here with Anthony Trucks and Tantra, the cat. You can probably see her head in the screen. We were just talking about the fact that she feels like she wants to be a quasi-celebrity every time I have the camera on. Actually, this is like the second time I've had Anthony in the show where she's like hanging about. So I think she's an Anthony Trucks fan as well, which is not bad.
I'll take it.
Awesome stuff. So, Anthony, really excited to have you here today. I know we did this last time, and, for the people that caught it last time, I hate to ask again, but I think I want to ask you to tell us a tiny little bit about your backstory, because I know people were inspired by it last time, and I also know we have people both live and in the replay that'll be tuning in and hadn't heard it last time around. So, do you mind kicking us off and tell us a little bit about your backstory or in your journey?
Yeah, man, I would love to. I think that's a huge piece of it, because I think at the end of the day, anything that someone says only carries weight if people know what they've done or experienced or who they even are. So oddly, I guess it'll be oddly, as I start out life as an entrepreneur at 3 years old. Sounds really weird, but it's more of an emotional feeling type thing. So my first memories of life was my mom giving me and my 3 siblings into foster care. So she literally just gave us away, and you get that moment of feeling worthless and not knowing if you're good enough or if what you bring to the table is worthwhile, or you're just totally lost. And it's honestly a scary situation, which is the first feeling a true entrepreneur feels. It's that feeling of being lost, being scared, having no idea what tomorrow brings. You're just kind of like there. And for like shift, when you want to be a speaker, whatever it is, you get put in that place because your heart tells you want to do it. Your passion tells you to do it. It's something you can't turn off, you can't shut down, you can't ignore. And so that's how my life started. And I think there's about 3 specific steps that we go through as an entrepreneur throughout our emotional life. And that was my first. And then throughout life, from there, from 3 to 6 years old, I was bouncing around from home to home, experienced a lot of craziness. Was in the system for 11 years, finally adopted at 14 after a lot of crazy years. And at 14, I had this experience where I got to do something I hadn't been able to do for my entire life. And at 14, I got to play football. And most people, they love the game of football, but I loved it. Like, it was something I could see myself doing for a long period of time. And it gave me a sense of purpose and a sense of self-worth. And the same thing happens for anybody in the entrepreneur space. There's something you love to do, whether it's speaking or in a book or like make a show or a podcast, if it's a thing you love doing. But for me, when I first started doing this thing, I sucked. I was bad. We're usually bad when you first do something if you're just, not gifted. And I was horrible at it. And so because of that, I'd made a decision to give up. And we all do this. We make great excuses as to why we're not supposed to do this thing. I'm just not great yet. I'm not smart enough. I don't know anything. And so it pretty much gets thrown in the back door, and you try to find someone to do something else. And the same cycle happens over and over. And I realized I couldn't do that. And it was a realization that was by accident. And for me, the realization happened when I was sitting in a class with these 2 girls sitting next to me in this love seat, having no idea I'm listening. And I have a park over my head. I'm eating a bag of Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And one girl says to the other girl, the reason I'm so bad is because I'm in foster care. I was like, wow. I heard my excuse out loud as to why I was going to chalk it up. And I didn't know, but if you look at any prison in America, statistically, 75% of the inmates are former foster kids. 1% or less of foster kids will ever graduate college. The numbers are stacked against me. And this is like what I'm pretty much saying. My mom's sick. She'd been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. My adoptive mom, my older brother went off to the military. I suck at this thing I love, because we've all had something we've loved to do, but we're not very good as we chalk it up. And she says this, and I was like, you know what? I can't be that guy. I can't let that be what determines my future. And none of us can. We should never do that. And so I remember going home and looking myself in the mirror and saying, Aunt, you're going to be great. Simple decision. Like, you're going to be great. And I think you have to make that decision, because everything rolls past that. If you're just kind of floating, you'll float for years, your entire life sometimes. And I got to this point, I was like, you're going to be great, Aunt. And all I knew was you have to work before you're going to be great. Like, you have to put the work in before you know you'll be successful. So I put the work in. The next year I came back and went back to football. And I was faster, I was stronger, I was meaner. Like, I had this mentality that I'd done all the work, so you had no right to beat me. When you've done the work, life has no right to beat you. Like, when you've put the hours and the miles and read the books, went to the courses, you've done the time, like, life has no right to take that from you, like, to take your success from you. And that mentality shifted me into a complete different person, because I realized that, when football, I came back and I went from being a sophomore in high school to moving up to varsity and starting that year to eventually getting a college scholarship, playing for the University of Oregon, go Ducks, wearing the gear. to eventually playing in the NFL, coming home, opening a gym business that's still in operation 9 years later. I beat the odds of 5% failure the first, years. I think 1% make it 10 years. So I'm still on pace to make a good number there. I became a multi, six-figure consultant in multiple different companies. I've written books. I've been on stages for people that I never thought I would be on. I've held live events. I've traveled the world and spoke. So a lot of cool stuff, but it all happened because I had a realization back at 15 that you have to trust your hustle, which is my entire company. It's all based around trusting that little demon inside of you that says, I can do that thing. And you start putting effort out. And the more effort you put out, the more success you have. The more success you have, the more trust you build in yourself to know when you want to go after something, your work will be worthwhile. And I think the third step that really is the most important to me is a lot of the people that I talk to ask, well, why do you do this? Like, what's the big deal? And why you chose this as your path? And I realized that if I look at my life, it's all because at a moment in time, I had a realization of what I'm supposed to do. And I think what we're all supposed to do. It was April 15, 2014, and I was sitting in a hospital room with my mom, my dad, and my grandma. And my mom, my dad, and my grandma were all kind of organized specific ways. I was on the right side of my mom. My dad was on the left. My grandma was on the left. My mom was in the bed. And I was holding my mom's right hand, and she inhaled and exhaled her final breath. And I watched her life leave. And I think it's in those finite moments you start trying to determine, like, what are we here for? Like, if that's life, if that's finite, what are we here for? And I just remember like having this contemplation, realizing that she, although you may not know her, she had an impact on you. And anybody watching right now, and the way that she did is she impacted me, right? Like I was this kid that she did not have to take care of. She wasn't my blood. I wasn't her blood. Like I tried to be really bad as a kid because I wanted her to give me back to the system so I can go live with my real mom, who was not even a good mom, but that's what you think. So I'm like, she loved me through, unconditionally loved me through all that crazy. And it was someone like that I wanted to be in this world also. I realized that we impact those who impact. Just like she impacted me to impact the people I speak with, I want to do the same. You may never know them in the background. You never I helped anybody, but the person I'm going to impact is going to go and impact somebody by a book or a speech they give or being a great mom or a great dad, like something in that world. And I think that is why we're here in the world of entrepreneurship. It's not just to sell products and hot goods. To make a great impact, man, it's to leave a legacy. And that's what the world in its entire history has always been. It's people like when Martin Luther King Jr.'s, his holiday just yesterday, like that's a person left a great impact. And he's impacted millions. Want to stand up and take my vision you want to put out into the world. You're not doing it just to make a dollar. You're doing it to make an impact. And you're going to impact those who impact, which is every single person on this planet. So I guess it's my backstory, man, as best I can explain it.
Wow. Well, once again, I know, Anthony, that's going to inspire a lot of people because, I mean, just the idea of the journey that you traveled, that, as you said, really isn't the norm. I mean, you talked about that conversation with those two girls, and she said what I guess was theoretically, whether we like to say it or not, you mentioned it, that was what the norm is, the statistic. Yeah. And you basically said, I'm not going to be a statistic. Here's what I'm going to do with my life. And that's so powerful. And I should say we can't not mention as well the fact that you've just been, you were recently an American Ninja Warrior. That's just so cool. Yeah. That's another one of those cool things that happen. But Anthony, if we go back to that I guess when you heard that, and you mentioned it a little bit in terms of that statistic and those statistics that kind of, what people sort of buy into, here's the numbers, here's what's probably going to happen. Yeah. You mentioned that, you said, what, this is what I've been hanging on to. Did you carry that as a catalyst all the way through, or was that just kind of the initial motivator and then you jumped in a different direction, if that makes sense? So was it just like the momentary, this is what's going to happen now, or is it something that you constantly went back to for at least the near future at the time?
Man, I think what it was that was the first Kickstarter, like lit the match and the fire starts burning, but the fire likes to go out. You got to put new logs on every day. It's literally that thing. So that was the Kickstarter. And I think what it is you realize, like, it's kind of like thinking, if I start this fire, will I get any warmth? That's why people don't start the fire. Like, is it going to provide warmth? Is it going to die down? So people don't start a fire because some of them in their head, they're like, it's not going to be warm. But once you put a fire on and you get the log going, you're like, that was warm. And if you're literally like thinking about a fire, if all of a sudden you're warm and all of a sudden it gets cold, what do you want? You want warmth again. You got to put a new log on. And that new log ends up being something new as an anchor point for you. So for me, like people always ask, like, how'd you keep pushing and how'd you end up doing what you're doing now? which it's a crazy story, but the truth is I've always been brave enough to chase my passion. And I think that's what's been able to allow me to keep putting a log on the fire, because that log is saying what lights me up, literally what sets me on fire inside. And at the time was football. And then from football, I was like, you know what, I want to own a gym. And then from the gym, I was like, you know, I want to travel and speak. And I was like, well, I want to be able to create passive revenue so I can actually live my life with freedom. And so I want to be a consultant where I can work small amounts of time, or I want to create online products or whatever it is. And it's like I just keep putting a new log on. I dig through it. I think every single journey I've taken inevitably has setbacks. It's part of life, right? But my goal is to keep the fire going, so I don't let it die down. I find some new log to stoke it, and I keep it moving. And I think that's what's been huge for me and paramount that people need to grab is your purpose is honestly going to be the eternal fire. Like once you find that thing you were here to do, like that thing fires up every day just to be doing it, because it's not so much you're in love with the destination of freedom or income or money as an entrepreneur, but you start falling in love with the process. You start to fall in love with the everyday aspirations of just getting up and enjoying the life you've allowed yourself to create. And so I think that's kind of a big thing for me, and teaching people this realization of your passions are what leads you to that purpose. If you don't chase a passion, you're never going to be introduced to the opportunity to find your purpose.
So Anthony, a lot of the people that I work with these days either are influencers, you know, by, I guess, our definition of the word in terms of they're impacting other lives. You know, it might be one, it might be many. And then others are wanting to go in that direction. They want to have an impact, as you mentioned at the beginning, a legacy. They want to have something that lasts maybe even longer than their body if they're lucky. So my question out of that is, when it comes to influence, because you've been fortunate enough to have influence in various fields. And so I'm curious your thoughts on what it takes to be a modern influencer today. And why I ask that is, I mean, you and I are both seeing that the noise is happening a lot quicker. There's more and more people out in the market trying to make their mark, and that's great. But it makes it harder for that other person that's trying to come in new and become an influencer. So what do you think are some of the attributes that it takes to be an influencer today?
Yeah, there's two very specific ones. I think one is you have to find your unique thing. And this is not new information. It's not like, oh, you got to be my unique guy. Like, you really have to find that. And there's a process you can go through to figure that out. There's actually one that I have in one of my programs that teaches you how to take all your crazy ideas, whatever you're good at, and hone it into that one or two thing that was really your stuff, your mojo, so to speak, right? But you've got to find out what your big idea is. There's a lot of ideas out there, but if your idea or what you want to do sounds like the rest of them, they're going to get drowned out. You'll never climb above the person who's already doing that thing, right? So you got to find your uniqueness in that same realm, right? Whatever it might be. And so that's one piece of it. And then two, what a lot of people don't do is look at what they're trying to create as a business. They try to own a job. And what I mean by that is I don't think it's a good thing to be an entrepreneur. I think it's weird to say, but I don't think it's a good thing. That's what we call my big ideas. People who are entrepreneurs want what business owners have. And business owners are entrepreneurial. So what I mean by that is entrepreneurial means I'm going out to venture on my own thing. But you don't want to be an entrepreneur forever, because you're pretty much just selling stuff. I'm going to sell some things when it comes across, and now what happens, there's no sustainability, there's no freedom, even of your mind to be able to sleep at night knowing like, okay, next month, I don't know what's coming in, but I'm going to find a way to do it, right? I know I can sell these things, right? The idea is to create a business. And when you create a business, you allow yourself to do some incredible things and influence. One, you allow yourself to make out there, or whatever you're creating for the world, so the world can consistently see it. So now you're always up, you're always doing stuff, as opposed to the person that starts something and stops randomly and starts again and stops randomly, and everybody's like, oh, that person's fickle, so they don't follow you anymore. But also, when you put your stuff out there, you allow yourself to have this consistency of not only information going out, but also when you start creating a product and getting great results, now you have the social proof people don't have. Like, when you can sit and say, I have testimonials from clients of mine who have done my work, who have seen the stuff, and it's great. That's why we buy stuff. That's why we join stuff, which allows you to have the income to give yourself the freedom to create consistently, to sell more products, and just it's a vicious cycle, but a positive way. And so I think if you're trying to be an influencer, you really have to think about what's your unique thing, and then how are you setting up a business and not just owning a job? Like, what are you setting up that has predictability, can consistently roll, provide income so you can provide your freedom, so you can act. Catch that?
Yeah, I think you froze up just for about the last 20 seconds of that. So
oh, no. I have no idea what I said at the end. I'm joking. I think my big summarizing of what I just said was you have to be able to figure out exactly how to know what you're different at, what you're unique at, and then build a business that allows you to have some predictability so you can build a base to build on top of that. Because I think a lot of people, they want to do great and they know there's a lot of information out there nowadays. And that even creates more like lack of clarity. And so what happens is some new shiny object pops up and what you do is you buy it because it sounds awesome, but then you get it and you're like, I don't even know where this thing goes because nobody has a base. Like it's like trying to build a puzzle in a bowl of water. Like you can't, the puzzle, you got to get a Facebook marketing thing here and my email autoresponder and buy this course here. And then what you do is you try to put it on like at the top of water and it just, there's no stability. It doesn't go anywhere. And so it's because you have no baseline operation, no foundation, no strategy. So you get a strategy, but you have no strategy for your new strategies, right? And so the idea is like, how can you create a table, a base, a foundation where when I get this new piece, I know where it goes. And then what happens is you can see other stuff in the marketplace and say, well, that looks really cool, but will it fit in this puzzle that I've got? Because I can see it and I'm like, no, it doesn't. Now I can save myself time and money by not grabbing that thing that I don't actually need. Because again, the end result is peace and freedom and income consistently. And cool, shiny things won't always do that unless they can add value to what the system you already have doing that is.
So here's a follow-up to that, Anthony. I'm not sure if you're familiar with his work. If not, I'll give you a little summary. But Michael E. Gerber, you know that name?
I don't.
So we may know this name. This was his book. I mean, he has multiple books, but this was the one most people know is the EMyth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know the EMyth for sure.
Okay. So we had Michael on the show quite some time ago on our radio show, and I love the EMyth premise. And so when you were just talking about the difference between an entrepreneur and a business owner, and for whatever reason, Michael's work came into mind. And, you know, for those who haven't heard his work, I mean, you need to go out and grab that book. I mean, that's a game changer for so many people, but it's built behind the premise of what you just said, Anthony, is how do you create a business that can operate without you and still bring in an income? And, you know, he really talks about how to franchise your business, even if you never care to own a franchise. You know, he talks about how franchises succeed on a much higher scale than entrepreneurs because they have a system and they also have a way to generate revenue even on the pick for a month. So am I right in saying what you just summarized, is that sort of somewhat interchangeable with that idea that let's create something that can grow without us and that can keep going?
Yeah, it's a huge piece of the puzzle. And I mean, you don't have to have a massive team nowadays. You have technology that can automate so many steps of it. But I think that's a level up from what it is that I really love working on. Am I still here or am I frozen? I think I'm frozen. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
There he is. But I was saying, yes, I think it's a huge piece of the pie. I think there's kind of two levels. I think one level is let's say that I do sit back and create these systems of operation, which you have to have systems that can duplicate. Nowadays, technology can automate a lot of that. But what happens is people, they don't organize themselves in a way that allow them to even have time to execute what they have to execute to build these things. So imagine you telling yourself, like, I got to get this project done. And I know I need to get it done at some time, but there's no deadline set. There's no chunking down of the steps, which means you never actually make progress on it. And then you wake up 6 months from now, you're like, I got nothing done, right? And you know that systems are there, but you have no idea how to build systems. You took no time to research how a system works, to build a system, to try a system, to fine tune it. Therefore, you get no progress. So more of what I'm saying is we as people need to learn how to be able to get clear on what's going to be the most beneficial, lucrative ideas we have. From there, chunk down the actual steps that's going to take to complete that thing. And then from there, plug that into our life in a simple, specific way that allows you to not be this person, which everybody is this person at a time. You're working on 3 projects and you've set aside an hour tomorrow to work on a project. And you said, I'm going to work on project number 1. So you're going to get down there, you're going to have your pen and paper out, working on project number 1. Well, guess what happens to creep into your mind? Project 2 and 3. And so now you're like, I'm trying to work on project 1, but 2 and 3 won't get out of my head. Next thing you know, an hour's gone by and you got nowhere. And the reason was because you didn't organize anything you're supposed to really get done in project 1. And there's no idea when project 2 or 3 is going to get done, so they float around in your head. But if you've chunked them down, organized them, and put them into your day, your weeks, your months leading up, you can be these steps are all completed, so I can be at complete peace knowing that this hour is just for this. And you can do that and be able to have free time still in your life and enjoy like that work-life balance no one can seem to find. It's It's because nobody's organized their life specifically. But if you do, there's just a simple step like that. Like maybe there's 10 steps of project 1, 5 for 2, and 10 for 3. Cool. I'm gonna have all 25 laid out in the next 5 weeks, and they're good. When it's done, I can work on step 1 of project 1, and I'm cool. I'm getting work done, and you usually get more done faster. And you can be done and be like, the rest of the day I'm gonna hang out with my wife and my kids and do whatever I choose to do. And that will allow you, just that freedom base, that foundation will allow you to see what you should or shouldn't add to your system. Like maybe I'm saying I'm doing this process. I'm on step 1. I'm realizing I could have a computer system do this, or I could hire someone for this. What are the steps I would do? Okay, here's my steps. And you start putting this into your project steps. So now you're having time put aside to really get stuff done.
So Anthony, and for those just checking in, we have Anthony Trucks here rocking it, of course. And so, Anthony, what you just talked about there, I agree completely, and I wish more people would have a system in place and actually outline things and maybe just, I love the concept of measuring twice and cutting once, rather than cutting and cutting and cutting, going, what's going on here? Now I get 16 pieces of stuff rather than taking the time to prepare in advance. I mean, they say what is 1 minute practice is equivalent to something like 5 minutes of results, so, and preparation as well. So, but saying that, I guess I'd like to go in the direction of social media. And I will say about 10 to 15 minutes, I have some questions that people had submitted previously that I want to bring to you, Anthony, and get your thoughts on. But before we jump too far ahead, in terms of social media, so when I talked about influencer, and influencers, people are trying to become the next influencer. They see a Gary Vee, they see a Seth Godin, they see these guys crushing it with big time results, and they're saying, I want to do that. Gary Vee's case, they don't see the 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning hours that he was doing to build this brand. But that all said, of course, people look at social media, and I know I did at the beginning and jump in and tried a bunch of stuff, and I didn't get that measurable results that I was hoping for. Now, I'm happy to say where I ultimately ended up landing in social media, realizing where I'm getting the results and where I got the results over the years. And it's not, unfortunately, I'd love to say it's from the engagement on posts and things like that. That isn't where it landed for me. But I guess I'd love to ask you the question, in terms of getting results. So there's one thing of putting a post up and going, I put a post up now, and in 3 hours now I put another post up. I have 5 scheduled for today. And you can do that all day long, but you see people's Twitter feeds that they're posting every 5 minutes, and you can go down for 2 days and see they've had 3 retweets and 2 likes. So from your perspective, what have you seen working with clients and yourself that actually gets tangible results in the way of social media?
There's a couple things you got to do. One, results are all relative. So results to me are different than results to other people. Some people's results, they just want to get people to like their stuff and follow, right? Some people want to make money on their posts. It's a complete difference, and it's based upon what your desire is to do. I think my phone's talking to me. Oh, my wife. These earbuds I have. Yeah, they're connected to my wife's iPhone right now. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
I'm playing music in my headphones. My Apple Watch is literally connected to this, and I'm listening to her music, so I had to turn it off. Back to our conversation. How weird is that? I've never had that happen. I think once you know what your results are, what you want your results to be, that's a big piece of it. Secondly is you have to know who you're talking to and what you're giving them. And I think a lot of people don't get this clear, and it took me a while to figure this out. There are multiple different levels of where a customer sits, or a potential client sits, or somebody you want to talk to sits. It's a person that's completely unaware of what it is you do, right? Then there's going to be a person that's kind of problem aware. They know they have a problem, but they don't know solutions that are out there. Then they know solutions are out there, so much so that they know about products. So you have like unaware, problem aware, solution aware, product aware, and then they're the most aware at the very top. They know everything, right? And so what happens is a lot of people don't know who they're talking to. They're talking to all different people, different times, and it's scattered. So imagine it kind of like this. If you're standing on a corner and you're walking by, let's say it's New York City, and you're walking by, there's some guy in this, crate, and he has a megaphone, he's yelling. Are you listening to every word he's saying? After a while, you tune him out. He's just talking to everybody. It's like, this guy's, I want to listen to this guy's tune out. But if you are walking by and you see one person who's facing you in the back of the person, but that person that's facing you is talking just very intently at somebody else, eyes in, just talking, what do we do as people? We eavesdrop. Like, what's this person saying? What are they so passionate about? And I think that's what people never actually do when they're creating social media content, is they're just putting stuff out there, but they're not thinking about who they're talking to. And when you can think about who you're talking to, you'll get all the rest of the people tuned into who it is you are, because like, this person's passionate about this thing and they're great at this thing. How they naturally like, how can I glean something from this, right? And so I think you have to start looking at where your person's at, and then from there, what problems do they have that you can solve for them? Because if they're completely unaware, you need to educate them on what's going on and kind of give them information. If they know their problem, talk about their problem. Like you know you have a problem. This is what the problem is. Talk about that. Now it's great content. And what they'll do is usually people know people like them. I have this problem, bro. Look at this. Watch this. Now we share it. Now we like it. Or if there's a solution where it's like, hey, I got this product, and I know there's a solution. And they start hearing stuff like, dude, I didn't know this product was out there. I know I've been needing help with this, and I've heard of this, this, and this, but I didn't know this existed. And they start sharing it, right? And it may not be a product, it may be information, right? There's just certain things people have to learn. And when you start doing that, I think what people fail to comprehend is the most valuable piece of social media content to where someone is so proud of it and they like it so much that they're going to share it. That's everything grows. I don't care what you do and how you do it, but it's got to be shareable stuff. And I'm not saying every piece of content I make is shareable. I'm not saying I'm the social media king right now at all, but I know who I'm talking to. And for what my results are, like my goal, I reach my goals because my goal is to talk to a specific person. I have one process they take, one step they take, and it feeds my business in ways it has to, right? That's my goal. I don't want to have millions and millions and millions and millions of followers. It's just not a specific goal of mine right now. I want to be able to hang on a Starbucks like I did this morning and come hang out and talk to you and then chill with my wife. And I don't want to take over the world. Like, that's just my goal, right? My results are different. So I think that's a big piece of it. But then also, you got to have a process in place. I'll keep on going back to this. It's emotional. Like, it's like the thought of it's going to be hard to come with like a social media plan and a step-by-step process and following and doing all this work, right? And so what people want to do is they want to pass the test, but they want to skip class. They pretty much want to go ahead and get all the result without doing the work. Like you have to go in and you have to do this work. You have to do the research. You have to look at things. And I think what happens is people are, one, they're scared of doing that work and it's tiresome, it's dreary, or two, they don't know how to do it. So the hurdle of having to figure out how to do it and then do it becomes daunting. And so I think if you look at the social media world, I'll summarize, find out what the result you want is. Do you want income? Do you want likes? Do you want followers? Whatever it is, create content that's shareable based on where your potential customer is at, and then create something that can consistently keep running without a ton of your emotional energy and grow. Like for me, in the last 2 months, I decided I want to use Instagram as my platform to grow. Like, you know what? I'm going to use Instagram. It's going to be where I put my time and effort. Facebook is cool. But I think most of the people that I want to approach, which are the people who are either like thinking about starting their own thing or, being an entrepreneur in some way, or they're into it and they're struggling. That's where I love to work with people because I've been there and I've got past there and I can get people past there. It's a lot of fun. But they're there. And so I was like, how can I create something on Instagram? I was like, okay, I got to find a way to make a good base there. So if you go to my Instagram now, what you'll see is a complete shift where I've put a ton of time into making it look a specific way. There's 3 posts a day, certain types of posts, certain hashtags, certain things I'm creating content-wise that target my specific customer, certain things to do in my story, and they're there consistently, nonstop. So if you come to my page, you'll see a consistent flow, and it provides a sense of trust or sense of emotion of what I want my potential client to see. And I don't have to put much work into it. To be honest, I post 1 time a day. I have a team that takes my content that I create once a month. I make all this content, and then I give it over into a specific file. I tell them, post it at this time and this time. Here's the hashtags, or they give me some ideas because they've done some research, and they just post. And then my job is to go in, like the comments, engage with comments, send messages. Like I just do my coordination there. And once a night I post a video. That's my flow. And since doing that, I've grown in the last 2 months from, I think it was like 26 or 25, 26,000 followers to I think today I'm at like 29,200. So I'm approaching 30 pretty quickly here. I think the last week, 7 days, I had 964 new followers as of before I got on this call, just looking at it. And it's not because I'm doing anything crazy, but I said, I'm going to put my time here. I'm going to be consistent. So now I provide content. So when someone happens across it, they want to share it. They want to tag their friends. They want to, whatever it is, and then they want to follow it. And that process rolls and rolls. And that's pretty much how my result is. But that's how you have to do social media. It's a process. It's not me winging it. If I was winging it, I'd post here maybe I'd post tomorrow. I post some piece here, but I'm like, I got a process. I know I want to have work, and I work that system, and the system works for me.
It's funny. I was taking notes because I wanted to mention something, and when somebody's seeing that me looking over to the side, I want to let people know I was actually taking notes because I wanted to tag on to something you just mentioned, Anthony. That sort of present, and I didn't want to forget this. But something you said that triggered something, and then I'll kind of share, a couple of areas where I've used social media and it's worked for me. But if I would have given up early on because I was trying to just simply get engagement or likes, I may not have experienced that and saw the other benefits. But the thing that you mentioned about know your audience and then solve a problem that they can sort of see you solve, and then may want to share it with other people or what have you. It just, and I don't know if you heard this story, but it just popped into my head, the story about Sarah Silverman that's been in the news the last couple of days.
I don't watch the news.
Well, and you know what? I don't really either, but this is something I think I saw in a tweet or something in passing. I saw it somewhere in passing, and then I got pulled in, of course. And it's a good news story. And you know, whether you like Sarah Silverman or not, I don't think that. Well, and with the celebrity thing these days, I don't try to play favorites. I mean, I know who I like, and I don't try to call somebody they should. But Sarah Silverman's been getting a lot of kudos these days. Well, the last couple of days, because what she did was somebody, and I won't say the word she used, but somebody called her a vulgar name, and instead of her attacking back, which would be the norm, of course, almost with anybody. What she said is she went and viewed the person's, and I'm going by what the story said, but viewed the person's Twitter. She put this actually on the tweet. She said, I took a peek at your page, and she said, I realized that a lot of what what you're saying to me probably came from hurt that you're dealing with and pain. And, I think it's a shame, and I'd like to help if I could. And it turned into this conversation where he ultimately came back and said, I have been dealing with all this stuff. I'm sorry I lashed out at you. This is what happened in my childhood. And it was like a public conversation. And ultimately he said, he said, I have no money, so I can't get treatment for my back and what have you. And so she actually said, hey, can anybody help my bro out? And then all of a sudden the chiropractor came and said, we've reached out to him. And she said, tell me how much it costs. And so everybody's seen this. And then what happened was at the end, everybody starts kudoing Sarah. So she said, look, don't give me your kudos. This is something anybody could do. I do this lots. And she said, and there's also times and don't put me on a big pedestal because I'll let you down. But she said, I think it's something that we all can. And so when you said that about watching a conversation and solving a problem for somebody, even though this isn't Sarah's business that she's trying to, brand or anything, it's still, I think, a good lesson about the fact that that's a public conversation. And let's say her brand, even if that's not her intention, her brand stock just went up amazingly from that post. Which I think is similar to if somebody has a real problem and you can help them solve it. Like you said, why not know who that person is, solve it publicly, and make it so that other people might want to share it. And at the same time, they're sharing your work and the fact that you helped somebody out.
I agree. It's 100% true. The thing is a lot of people have no idea what people's problems are, because she was able to poke and pry to get it out. But it takes some creative processing to figure out what people are really struggling with. And I think if you get to the point where the conversation in somebody's head by doing this, like the steps you go through to find that out, you'll be able to do so much. And that's really all business is, solving problems. Entrepreneurship is the greatest form of love, because you take something that you have inside of you and you choose to help other people with it. And along that journey, there's a lot of people that do like he did, and they try to knock you down, man. It's what I've experienced. It's just a part of the process, but you don't have to serve them there. You serve them where you choose to serve, and you create something amazing for them, regardless if they want it or not. What I call you have to hug your haters is the best way I can explain it. That's pretty much what she did. Most people are coming from a place of hurt. Like I don't know any incredibly happy, joyous person who would say hurtful things. You think about it, like if I'm super happy and I'm always like in joy, like I'm not gonna walk around and just be like, I hate you. It doesn't happen. So it's like that's where people come from. And if you get that logical aspect and let your emotions take over, you can do just what she did every single time.
It's interesting. One of the things my girlfriend loves to say, and she's fond of saying, and I mean this in the way that I think it helps her, like you say, put things in perspective when somebody's trying to hurt you. And she learned this over the years, just in dealing with her own struggles. But basically, it's the saying that, or message that hurt people hurt people. So, when somebody's hurting you, they're probably hurting. There's probably something going on that you're not seeing there. And I think sometimes when you can look at that, it makes you realize it's not always just about you. And it's not that they're evil. There are a lot of cases where they've been through a similar thing, and now that's the only way they know how to, to deal with it.
Yeah, so, I agree.
So I promised I'd share a couple of different ways that I've used social media, and then I'm going to wind down, Anthony, with the questions that I promised people sent into us. But just to kind of finish that off in terms of with social media, where I almost gave up, just thinking somebody listening, this might help you. But I jumped on in 2006 on Facebook. I was expecting, after about a year of toying with it, with, hanging out with friends, meeting old friends that I hadn't seen in years, and not knowing what Facebook was about, but thinking I could probably use this for business. But then I tried to kind of promote and do all this stuff, and I didn't get results as the end result. And you can't expect to when you're trying to go out to social media and just try to boom, say, here, take this. At the same time, social media was brand new, especially the Facebook, the big player, was brand new. So nobody knew what the rules were. But anyway, what ended up happening for me is it took me a while to see this, but over a couple of years of just sticking it out, posting it, every now and then, the light bulb went off whenever I had a client that came to me about hiring me as a speaker. And normally I would have had to provide a price, follow up, have a system in place to make sure that I didn't drop the ball, didn't miss out on the opportunity, but also basically almost sold them on why hire me. And this person here who had been watching me on social media without me even knowing, basically said, no, that's all good. I've been following you for like a year and a half now. No, let's just book it. And the light bulb went off that all of a sudden it made me realize that even without knowing it, people are watching. And the people that are watching, I'm building this credibility with them, whether I know it or not. I could also be going the opposite way, but I was building this credibility. And all of a sudden the whole sales process was done because they felt like, this is my buddy now. We're on social media together. And so I didn't realize that's a result. And once I started realizing that and said, now I'm going to literally give as much value as I can to anybody I can. And if nothing comes out of it, that's fine. But what ended up happening is people watched it and said, we want to bring you in because we see you're doing the right stuff. Whereas otherwise, if you think of the old school way of doing it, I would have been emailing them, trying to show them with videos and prove to them that I'm the right guy. And so I guess what I'm getting at is 99% of my sales process was done because I was on social media. And then the second way that it benefited me, Anthony, and I don't know if you've experienced this as well, is simply access to contacts. And the contacts that I built by being on social media and connecting and being in the same circles, that is another area where the business results happened because of the network that I built, even though I didn't realize I was building a network at the time, if that makes sense. I started sharing stuff with people, and I got on their radar because I was sharing their stuff because I loved their stuff. And all of a sudden they're like, hey, I should come on your show. You should come on my show. And all these things developing. So I guess what I'm getting at is that I ultimately realized for me, what I was trying to do with social media is build those connections by being social and delivering value. But it took me years to come across that and have a happy accident that made me realize, don't give up on this, because it's not just about putting out a post and somebody hiring you 5 minutes later. Anyway, for what it's worth.
I agree. I appreciate it, man. I think I agree with a lot of that. I mean, pretty much all of it. I think it's a matter of knowing. I mean, the thing that's inside of there is the truth, 100% truth. But I don't think it has to take years to get there for a lot of people nowadays. That's why they hire coaches. They hire myself and yourself, right? That's kind of the idea, is a fast-paced that, because the thought of like, oh, it's going to take years to get there, it's troublesome. It's stressful. Even Facebook just changed a lot of different things for the algorithms where they don't even have as much business stuff out there. And the reality is you have to put great content out, and you don't have to just wing it. I think that's one thing, is you shouldn't wing it. There are very specific things you can do, and it's like, I'm gonna beat the dead horse, but once you know what to do and do it, that's where the successful entrepreneurs thrive, and the ones that are struggling struggle forever, because they don't get the right information and they don't have the right foundation to build on. It's the dead horse. I'm gonna keep beating it, because that's where I keep coming back to is having an idea, because for you put the outcome when it's done, but it took you so long to do it right. But nowadays, I mean, social media has been out for so long. There's so many ways to do it. Once you can tap into a few of the things you need to, it becomes simple. Like, it doesn't have to be rocket science to be able to make income in this world.
Well, and the thing is, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, now I have a system. Now it's intentional. But, I'm thinking of me from back in 2006, where I almost tapped out because I thought it had to be immediate. And I thought not only that it had to be immediate, I thought that it had to be, like, I was thinking of it as basically effect and result. Like, just like, okay, I put a post out. Where's the business? Like, that's where my head is at. And so time to realize there's more than one. As you said, once you know what your goal is, you can have multiple goals. One could be, you know, I want to put the right content out that, like you said, I'm answering somebody's question and people see that, or I'm delivering value to the right people, or I'm sharing somebody's stuff over and over again and they say, I need to work with this guy, whatever that is. But at the same time, what I realized is there's also invisible benefits happening too. Like I said, like people are seeing you do this, like you're building a reputation where, you know, if we go to somebody like a Gary Vaynerchuk, his goal might have been immediately, okay, I want to see business results. I want to interact with people like crazy. And then I want to become the trusted go-to source. But also what happened just as a byproduct is when somebody's going to hire Gary Vaynerchuk, even at his fee level, it's either a yes or no. It's either I can afford his fee or I can't, or I'm bringing him in or I can't. But they don't have to say, you're going to have to prove yourself to us. Because most cases,
because you know,
he's already proved himself. So I think
exactly.
The work's already happening. It doesn't have to take long, and you can do that. You can do that with one post. But you know, maybe it's a video. Maybe you did a TEDx talk, and it's the TEDx talk you deliver, and you put the right message with the TEDx talk you share, and then it goes viral. I mean, it doesn't have to take a long time. I just mean it's important to know that you're building that credibility while you're doing everything else anyway.
I agree. I fully agree. I mean, that's how you do it. Where even if they're bored in the middle of the night, because if you think about it, most people, they find you at, you know, middle of night hours, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, 11, 12, and they can't call you and talk to you. And so that they get a sense of who you are based on what they see. You have to craft your brand. I think that's what some people don't realize is your brand is the desired perception you create. And that comes with everything. Everything speaks. Everything. And the colors speak. How you speak speaks. What your page looks like. You know, the flow of it. Everything speaks. And when you can craft that perception, you can allow yourself to do some incredibly positive damage in the sense of helping you get farther ahead faster than the rest of the people who are just trying. Again, I think the thing is when you halfway try, you get a half a result, then you check out fully. It's weird, but you have to put full effort in before you know you're going to be successful, and that's how you get that amazing result. It's just doing the work, man. It's really it.
So, Anthony, I promised, I mean, we're down to 10 minutes now. I promised that I was going to finish us off with some questions that people had sent in to me beforehand.
Let's do it.
So, without further ado, Anthony Trucks, great to have you here today. And so the first question is from Felicia L. Reed. And Felicia asked, what is one way you as a thought leader determine what audiences want and what they don't want? So this ties into what we've been talking about almost this whole time as well, knowing your audience.
Yeah. So there's I mean, you can always, there's ways like doing surveys, that kind of stuff, but there's specific processes you can do, but you first have to find out where your audience is. Because you can't ask, you know, hey, one person, what are you struggling with? Because you're gonna ask one person, they're gonna tell you one thing and someone else will tell you another thing. It's kind of like asking, 5 different species that eat 5 different types of food, what kind of food they want. And you're trying to like, hell, I feed these people. Like he wants a carrot, he wants a taco and a banana. Like you're gonna be stuck, right? So you have to find out where these people are, and the first thing in terms of finding out what it is they want and need is you're gonna find out where they are in the whole process, which I'll say it again, based completely unaware of what's going on. They're just doing their thing. They're problem aware. They understand the problems that they're having, but they have no solutions. They have the problem and they know solutions out there, but they don't have the right one. Or they have the solutions and they know of specific products that solve that. And then on top of that's a piece of like they're fully aware of everything. And that's a harder person to talk to. But they know everything and it's much easier. So once you know who you're talking to, now you can kind of hammer down, and they call it the avatar, which the avatar is like, yeah, where do they hang out? Like that's part of it. But really we're trying to think of what are they thinking? What are they saying out loud? Like what are their biggest problems they're struggling with in terms of what they see? What are they seeing in the marketplace? That's their same marketplace they hang out. And like what is going on viscerally in their world? And once you get a grasp of that, now you can come with the right questions to get the right answers. Because if not, people are going to say, I'm just struggling with this area. And that's going to be an explicit answer, but you need the implied answer. You need to know what's on the underside, what's really helping them. Like, you know, I think someone said this one time, what gives them wet dreams and nightmares? Like, you know, what keeps them up in the middle of the night with a nightmare that they're scared of? And what gives them wet dreams? Like, what do they love? When you find what those things are, you can create something in that realm. And then what you do is you put it out there and you try to find a way to help. And I think one thing I learned recently, which is incredible, is you got to find what the big idea is. Like, what's the big idea that you pose to the world that allows the rest of the world to be like, what in the world is that? And then now you take them down your rabbit hole, and you're taking the right people down that rabbit hole, right? The right rabbit hole based on the idea, because the big idea will be relevant to the right people, right? Because if you talk about, for example, this new weight loss pill, if you're talking to people that have no idea that there's a weight loss pill, holy crap, it's a weight loss pill. But if you're talking to someone that's like, oh, I knew about that 5 years ago, and they're like, I've got 17 different weight loss pills I can take advantage of, and these ones work. They know so much. So what big idea do you have for the right demographic, and then take them down a rabbit hole, which is solving them. They'll tell you what their problem is if you just listen to them enough. Forums, groups, ask questions, hold surveys, hold phone calls. There's a lot of ways you do it. I don't want to confuse a bunch of people because there's too much information I can probably give right now. But literally, that's how you have to start the process, finding out who you're talking to and where they're at right now.
Well, and you answered a question I was just literally going to ask. And so I was going to ask what you just said in terms of where can you find them to listen in? And I was going to say, should you watch their conversations on social media and listen in and then jump in and help and ask questions there as well? And so you kind of answered that.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought so, but I thought I'd ask to make sure. So the second question here was from Sue Woodworth. And so Sue asked, who is your biggest influence and how did that change your life?
Man, it's a great question. I've had multiple big influences across my path. And I think the biggest one, if I look back on all, was my adoptive mom, who really genuinely showed me that there's a certain level of compassion you can give for the world without having to be like blood related. I think I think a lot of people question, why does somebody really want to help me? They don't know me. I'm not related to them. And I think that thought process is why our world seems like it's going down the crapper. Because everybody thinks there has to be some motive in the background. Yes, at the end of the day, I don't think there's anything that's true altruism. I don't think it actually exists that I do something for you without getting anything. Even if it's a good feeling, we still get that. But I think it's okay, for me, to go into the world and say, I want to create something amazing for every person I can come in contact with. I want to help you in amazing ways. And I think what I've been able to center around is I have this really selfish base of who I am. And I think my selfishness is tied to the fact that I love thank yous. I didn't come into the world mattering to anybody, to my mom who gave me away. I didn't matter. And so when I can matter, it makes me feel better. This is my human thing. And I realize the only way I'm going to get that feeling of mattering, genuinely, a real good, you matter, is if I give all of myself, pour out, talk, share as much as I can fully, before someone says, God, it was great, thank you. And then I'm filled up. And that's how I think you roll. I don't know what your question was, and I went on a tangent, but I'm hoping I helped you.
You answered it. It was just basically who inspires you. So you answered that. You're a doctor. And you also answered why, so that's awesome. So the next question was by Joyce Mills Blue. And so Joyce asked, and I'm going to paraphrase her question here because I'm reading into it a little bit, but she said, looking back 5 years ago, what one piece of advice would you have listened to more or implemented sooner that helped you get to where you are today? So I take it, what advice would you have wished you'd listened to 5 years ago, let's say? That's how I take it.
So what would I have listened to that I didn't listen to?
That's how I implemented sooner. The way I'm reading it, I guess we could almost say, what advice would you give an Anthony 5 years ago?
That's a good one. You know what so 5 years ago, where are we at now? 5 years ago, I was sitting in my gym. What were we in 2017 for? Yeah. Wow. Sitting in my gym still. I still own the gym. And I was thinking about doing this. There's going to be two things I would probably say. One is chase that damn idea, man. Because I let Trust Your Hustle kind of float for a little bit. And someone came and made a T-shirt line. And they took my trademark for apparel because I didn't jump on it fast enough. It was not a good idea. So take action on whatever the heck it is you're thinking. And then the big thing I think that I would tell anybody who is thinking about doing something is choose one thing to do. One, not 50, not two. Choose one thing and become a master at that. Gosh, and it's weird because I have heard this. I know someone listening has heard this, but the problem they're having right now, and in your head, I know you're listening, you're saying, but there's so much I can do. What do I choose? And you're going to stay in that position and get nothing done and make no progress and get frustrated at yourself. Here's what I would recommend. 3 things you can do, 3 steps you can take to hone in on that thing. But when you choose that thing, you have to dig a super deep hole. You gotta attach the longest rope to this thing and just ride this thing as far as it's got to be that thing that you have as your anchor point, right? So what it is, the first one is you have to start looking internally at what it is you do well. What's that thing that you do incredibly well that's almost it's easy, right? It's almost like second nature. It's like a superpower. Then you have to ask other people externally, hey, what is it when you look at me and you talk to me and you see me operate my life? What is it that you find valuable that you'd like to take out and plug into yourself that would allow you to do something? What is that thing? Maybe it's the way I communicate, the way I talk, charisma, smarts, whatever it is. What is that thing, right? That's going to give you clarity, at least in a small way, on a whole bunch of stuff you can do. A whole bunch. Like you should make a massive list of all these crazy things you could do that you're capable of doing. Now, the next step is you got to make it narrowed down. You got to get even tighter. Big, broad ideas, chunk these things down. The way you chunk it down is you sit back and say, okay, cool. What do I want to do? Like, what do I want to do? Because if you don't find out of these things something you want to do, you're never going to put the time into doing it past the pain experiences. Because everybody experiences pain and they stop. They all get to the point of like, this is just too hard. And they don't go because they didn't do something they wanted to. They saw something that was like, someone said you can make money doing this. This is going to help you. But you don't love it. So you don't put the work in to do it. Period. What do you like to do? It'll narrow it much more down. Then from there, what do you need to do? Needs are different. There's necessities based on impact. There's necessities based on income. You have to make money right now. Maybe it's a project to get a new job or a new career, whatever it is, but hone down and say, what is this thing that I really need to do? Based on what I want to do, what needs to get done? Like, and for whatever purpose, you have to make money fast. So if it's make money fast, what's the fastest way to $1, right? Maybe it's I got to get my brand out there. Okay, what can I create? Maybe it's write a book, get this thing knocked out, right? Fastest way to get that next piece done. Then from there, you're going to have a few more choices. And this is where the hard part comes in. And I saw one guy do this really cool thing. I was like, that's so awesome. I don't have a cool medal I got. I did a ninja last week and got 3rd place. So you got a coin out and he says, okay, here's your 2 things. He says, I'm going to flip this coin. If it's heads, it's option A. If it's tails, it's option B. And he flips it in the air and he catches it and he goes, okay, so when it was in the air, what did your heart secretly want it to land on? And they'll tell you what it was. Okay, B. Okay, he puts the coin in. You don't need to look at the coin. We're doing B. Like, it's that simple, right? So once you've chosen this thing, now you can hone in. So the thing I would tell myself is find that one thing and then pour into it. Even when in the back of your head, you're like, did I choose the wrong thing? It doesn't matter. You could have chose the right thing and then done poor work and it could have failed. You can choose the wrong thing and make it right along the way. But you got to stick with it. No matter what you choose to do, you can't backtrack and go back and forth. Find that thing, dig into it, roll until the wheels fall off, and you'll find that you come out in the back end like, holy crap, it was a great ride. It worked. It just does. You make things right in time.
Wow, love it. So, Anthony, this is the last question. 2-part question by the same, but this lady, Sue Scaling. And
Yes.
2-part question, but I'm going to ask you them both at the same time, just for the sake of time and make it all work. And one of the questions is very unique. It's, what was your dream when you were a child? And then the second part is, how do you see yourself expanding in the future?
Wow. So as a child, it's really not even a fun one, but my dream as a child was like just to be loved. I didn't have that as a kid, man. I didn't really get that feeling until I was like a teenager of like somebody really loves me. So I think that was my dream. I didn't have like to be a doctor, be a firefighter. I was like, I just want someone to feed me and not beat me. Like, it's super weird. Sorry to bring the energy down, but that's my thing. The other question, I think expanding myself, what I look at next level for me personally is I want to be able to sit back in the background and help people build that amazing foundation. And the foundation isn't what most people think it is. The foundation is simply you understand what it is you should be doing to get clear on that thing and understand how to do it and then get it done. That's it. Like, how to be a fast entrepreneur. That's what I was talking before. Like, my big idea is I'm a fast entrepreneur, man. I operate quickly and I'm a business owner, right? I own a gym, a physical gym that runs itself for the most part. I'm a coach, I'm a consultant, I do a lot of different things, but what I really do is I have this ability to go fast. And fast does not mean it's bad. Like, I used to play professional football, NFL football, right? It was bad if you went slow. There's few things in life that speed will be bad for, like driving and sex, those kind of things, right? But for things in the realm of whatever we're doing, we do want to get places quickly. And it's doable. It's very, very easy to do if you understand the steps to follow, if you follow a process. I can think about this. If you're going to put an IKEA bed together, how can you get that thing done fast? You get the instruction sheet out, instructions say do this, this, this. Now I can go fast. If not, I'm sitting here like, holy crap, I'm winging this thing, right? You got to understand your things are, and then you can go fast. And when you do go fast, there's a benefit in it because you learn faster, you fail faster, you get ahead faster. So I'm going to fail quick. Okay, cool. I learned something. I'm going to learn this and apply it. Now that I apply it, I get ahead quicker. And that is the process you go through. So for me to expand, it's teaching people how to do that. Not just talking about it right here, but literally like steps. This little wheel is a full out curriculum I put people through that teaches them how to do every single thing I've talked about this entire time with you. How to get super crystal clear on your idea, even if you have 50 ideas. How to take that idea, get it super organized and chunked down to where you understand every step that it takes to get that thing completed. Even how to research the steps it takes. and then how to plug it into your day to where now it's getting done, and how to cycle back consistently and check and see if you're still on pace. And then once you get it done, how to keep the next level going over and over for your life. It's not rocket science, it's just a process.
So Anthony, I'm going to do a little quick summary here based on some of the notes I took. I actually started taking some notes. I could barely keep up in terms of how much content, as John Lee Dumas, our friend at Entrepreneur on Fire, would say, value bombs that you delivered today. But one of the things that you just said, which this is a paraphrase quote, but for whatever reason, I think I want to post it somewhere in the next week or two because it's really been speaking to me lately. I'm paraphrasing it because, going back to your point, just because it's fast doesn't mean it's not great. And so here's the quote that I've been sticking with is basically, and you can use this, you don't have to use it in the term book. I'm going to use the example book, but my imperfect book is better than the perfect book you never release.
Yeah.
And so the way I heard it, though, was my crappy book is better than the book that you never put out. But I don't think the book has to be crappy. So I'm saying my imperfect, and that you could enter anything here. My imperfect webinar is still better than the one you never release.
Yeah.
And so, and why I say that, going back to your point, Anthony, is that so many people get the greatest launch ready, greatest program ready, et cetera, and never press play. They never press launch. They never move forward. So I still think you're better to move fast, get it done, to a high level, and maybe you go back and find one little mistake later that you have to fix. Like you said, failing forward and failing fast. I think it's better to learn that while doing than it is to sit on the fence and go, this is awesome once I get it out there.
Yeah. Perfectionist. Yeah, perfectionist.
Well, and you think like Axl Rose, Guns N' Roses. I don't know if you remember, but he was working on this album it ended up being called Chinese Democracy. I think it was like 14 years. He went through 5 different variations of bands. He spent I think it was like $2 million, the most expensive album ever made, what have you. And then it came out and it was okay. But it didn't sell well. It sold okay. Everything was okay. But when you spend 12 years, quote unquote, perfecting it, the question becomes how many great versions of that album existed in all those reiterations, but also how many bands released maybe slightly imperfect albums that still did far better than that album because he never released it. It took 12 years.
Yeah.
Anyway.
When you take forever. The idea goes stagnant. The market changes. What you have is an idea now. If it's not out there, it can't get legs. You can't actually make something perfect until it's out there. It's kind of a weird thing that people don't actually grasp. Is like no matter what I want to make, how I want to make it, it's being made by me. And the only way to perfect something for a marketplace is let the market tell you what's perfect. And they're not going to be able to tell you anything if they don't have anything to gauge it from. So if you really want to perfect your stuff, put it out when it doesn't feel like it's 100% perfect. It sounds awkward. Make it as perfect as you can make it, though. That's just make it as great as you can make it, and then put it out and let them perfect it, because it can only be perfect when they have hands on it. So if you'd have made the album, put it out, a year and a half, 2 years later, the first time, people could have said, I like this sound, don't like this sound, I like how this riff's here. That's what the feedback would have been, right? Now I make it better. So 14 years later, you could have had a whole different album. But along the way, the market changed, things changed, information changed, and now all of a sudden this thing is it's now perfect because the people told me what was perfect about it. So put it out there, people. You got to get it out. You be fast. Be a fast entrepreneur, and if you do that, you'll be a successful one.
So, Anthony, like I say, amazing stuff. I just wanted to give a little note here for people listening to both live and the replay that our next webinar is going to be with James Redfield. So James is the author of the 20+ million Celestine Prophecy, and he's going to be taking us through self-publishing, writing, taking us through the Celestine Vision. And so check it out. All I can really say is check James out. Amazing stuff. Somebody that sold 100,000 copies of a self-published book, then brought it over to Warner Brothers Books and ended up selling 20+ million copies. Knows a thing or two about selling books. So why not join? If you can learn this stuff for free, why not?
I'm gonna tune in, man. Damn.
Awesome stuff. So we'll have Anthony there, and we'll have to send you a reminder just beforehand. But like I say, it's the 23rd, next Tuesday at, what do we got here, 12 p.m. So we'll make some magic happen there. But Anthony, you covered so much today. I wrote down a few things. I'm not even going to do it justice, but just for those listeners who maybe jump in at near the end, you talked about the importance of knowing our audience, listening to them to figure out what they're really saying, what they're looking for. Just now you talked about then making improvements as you go. You also mentioned early on about the importance of finding your passion and living on purpose. We talked about how to get some results on social media. You mentioned the importance of having clarity and having a system. You also mentioned the importance of figuring out what gets you excited and keeps you up at night. And then, and that's both ends of the spectrum, of course. I like what you said about what gives you the wet dreams. And then the other side is what's keeping you up at night, because it's a pain. And then you also talked about the importance of taking action. And then you even gave us 3 strategies for how we could start taking action. And then you talked about the importance of doing it quickly, failing quickly, learning from that so that you can perfect it or get it at least much better. So that's me taking quick, super quick, cyber intense, fast notes, trying to keep up with you, Anthony. And you gave us probably another, 10 or 20 that I didn't even have a chance to mark down. So thank you so much for bringing the passion, bringing the excitement, and also bringing the knowledge today, and being so gracious with the insight. And Anthony, I'll pass it over to you if there's anything else you want to share, any last comments. But thank you so much for helping us make some magic happen today, and hopefully helping some listeners take things to a new level. I will say as well, if you want to share anything as a last quick note, also feel free to tell us how we can connect and learn more, or how somebody can start coaching with you so they can be involved in that wheel that you showed us behind you.
Yeah, man. If you're just tuning in or you missed a chunks of it, you gave the Cliff Notes version stuff. I think you definitely should go back and just, get some tea and sit and just listen, because you may grab even one nugget that can help you. And I know that what I've said can definitely help you. That's what I do every day. I have a blast doing this. I think it's kind of the best part about it is I love learning every day. I love failing every day, which hopefully gets smaller and smaller as it's gone along in the journey here. But if I can do anything that can help you get an inch closer to your goal, that's all I want to do. Because that little inch gives you a new tool you can apply somewhere in your life. So come bug me. The best way you can find me is go to anthonytrucks.com. Send me a message. You can actually communicate with me. There's like a little box on there. Go to the contact me section. Go to the blog. Look at the videos I put up. You kind of see how I operate and roll. Or go to Instagram at Anthony Trucks. It's the best way to find me. I'm a human being. I communicate and talk. I like to bypass a lot of my team when I can by saying go to my inbox. You can get a lot more direct access to me there. But that's what I love to do, man. So hopefully you guys now, and for some reason you're sitting there saying, man, this sounds good. I'm kind of get too many ideas, maybe with no clarity. Maybe you've spent a bunch of money on a bunch of products that haven't panned out for you, and you're wondering why. That's what I can help you get clarity on and understand how the next big idea you can have can come so much faster and be so much more lucrative for your life.
Anthony Trucks, like I said, always a pleasure. Thank you so much, and we'll continue waving the flag for all the great work that you're doing, and also we'll call this a to be continued, and look to bring you on to perhaps our radio show in the near future, and continue to make the magic.
Got me in. Yeah, man, I'd love to.
Cool. Let's keep the dream alive. Thanks, Anthony.